tactic. I like that.
Yeah, and I put it up here too. Please don't edit or modify the sheet in any way.
I'm sure it still happens sometimes.
Hello, Blake Oliver here, and this is Gearing Up, a series by Relay. Relay is business banking designed for accountants and their clients. Just like me, they're obsessed with making firms more effective and efficient. So in each episode, I talk to real accountants and bookkeepers about one challenge they faced in their firm and how to solve it.
Today, we have Clay Sandoz of Wellstead Solutions on the show. Thanks for joining me, Clay.
You bet. It's good to be here.
So tell me a bit about you and your firm.
Sure. So my name's Clay, and I operate Wellstead Solutions. And to put it simply, we are simplifying financial operations for small businesses and nonprofits, focusing primarily on nonprofits. It all really began as an employee of a nonprofit who was overseeing financial operations, as you know, with one organization as my full-time job, and realizing just some of the needs that were not unique to one organization, but I was seeing across the entire industry. And I worked really hard. I kind of joke that I would almost hate to total up the number of hours I put into time-saving techniques. Because, you know, if you think about how much time you spend trying to save time, it can be a little overwhelming.
Right. Yeah. You spend 8 hours to automate a 15-minute task.
Oh man, it's such a relief. Yeah, exactly. But through doing that, I developed a lot of good systems and practices that I was able to then sort of branch off and scale and allow me to serve a number of nonprofits, basically offering what, in their experience, you know, feels like a full-time business manager, but I'm able to scale and offer in multiple places because they can, you know, from their standpoint, it's less than the cost of like a part-time employee. So it's a really good fit for me, for the clients that I serve, and allows the directors and the leadership of the nonprofits to really just focus their energy on their mission, their vision, focus on what they are there to do, and not worry about all the kind of messy back end stuff of, you know, processing checks and online donations and dealing with donors and that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I'm sure you're automating as much as possible, going cloud as much as possible. So let's talk about the technology that you're using in your practice. Can you give me an outline of your tech stack?
Sure thing. So from a financial standpoint, I really like to use Kindful. It's a great donor management platform. I've experimented and used a number of others with different clients. But when I have new clients that come along, I really like to point them toward Kindful. It's a really very user-friendly. It's very donor-friendly. It's a really good platform. So that's primarily where we process online donations. And then for physical checks that come in, we also log them there. So it's kind of the main data center for all of our donations that come in. It's also what allows us to send out receipts at the end of the year, because all of our donation data is in one place. That doesn't mean that all of our organizational financial data is there, but just the donation side of things. In some cases, we use JotForm as well. Not necessarily to process donations, but we could. They do allow for some of that. I have a couple of clients who, within the guidelines of what's allowable for a nonprofit, have some things that they sell, like selling donated items and things like that. So we've set up some, online shops where they can sell. I really like JotForm because of the way it integrates so easily with Google Sheets and things like that. So, so as you can see here, my Kindful and JotForm is sort of the input side of things. And then the things go two directions. The money goes straight to the bank, over to Relay. So all that stuff is on auto deposit. And then the information, the data side of all the donations that come in, I send to Google Sheets first. Almost everything can integrate directly into QuickBooks Online, but I find sometimes when you send it directly there's a little bit of a loss of intentionality and being able to send that data exactly where you want it to go. So I send everything first to Google Sheets, where I'm able to then sort of reorganize it, retool it in a way that's going to be most clear to me as the bookkeeper, to my clients who are viewing it, for the CPA at the end of the year who's going to be preparing the 990, which is the nonprofit tax return. So I like to kind of clean up the data in Google Sheets and then have some ways to push that up into QuickBooks, which then of course syncs with the bank as well. So it all kind of comes full circle.
Can we take a peek at your spreadsheet?
Absolutely. I approach it a couple of different ways for each client. But this is kind of the baseline. So what we want to end up with is a user-friendly dashboard here that a client can look at and say, this is what kind of month we had, and then go on to compare it to other months. I'll give you a quick look though first inside of Kindful, just to show it's not that Kindful is insufficient or falls short. This is kind of the main activity feed inside of Kindful, and so you can see this is actual live, or it's real data from one of my clients. But you can see on Monday that little circle symbol there shows that it's a recurring donation. So that was on Monday the 20th. We had 5 recurring donations hit, and they've got some large recurring donors that were giving. Then on Sunday, the day before, you can see that little check mark. That just means a check was manually logged into the system for $500. Below that, we had a PayPal donation. So you can see a nice feed of activity, but it doesn't give you a lot to compare it to or to see to really help you interpret it. Kindful does a great job giving you information on specific donors. So looking at this donor, you can see their lifetime donation. You get these nice charts of, when they were giving and things like that. But you the thing I find about this is you have to know that you want information about that donor and you have to go looking for it. But what I like to provide my clients is a broader look at how their organization is doing financially, so that maybe some of these trends would stand out, and then they could go dig into it and maybe go look at this donor's profile in Kindful to get a little bit more granular information. But this is not usually, they're not going to go combing through each donor's profile to see where are there irregularities and things like that. The thing is, what comes from Kindful is a CSV file. So it's not very helpful. That's not something I'm going to hand over to a client to say, here, here's your donation data for the month or the year or whatever. This is going to make a lot of people kind of go blurry in the eyes, especially when you consider in the nonprofit world. Typically the people that go out and start a nonprofit, especially the small nonprofits, like the ones I deal with, they're not bookkeepers, they're not accountants, they're not the nerdy back office folks. They're people with big visions, big hearts. They want to be with people. They want to be, out there with a big vision. And this kind of stuff, usually spreadsheets in general are a lot of times too much for the people with those big visions. So I try to make it, as painless as possible. So this is where, we deal with this raw data. We start here. So what I do is, I've got this note to my clients here. Please don't modify anything to the right of this. This is all my territory. A lot of this stuff I end up hiding, but I make this note, just please don't mess with it.
That's a good tactic. I like that.
Yeah. And I put it up here too. Please don't edit or modify the sheet in any way.
I'm sure it still happens sometimes.
It has happened a few times. Thankfully with Google though, you can roll back edits pretty easily.
Yes.
I've had to do that a few times. So what I do is I just drop it in this CSV. I've formatted everything to be ready for the data, even down to, calculating. This is a formula that's going to give us all of our fees based on whether it was an ACH donation, a check that came in, cash, credit card, that kind of stuff. So I'll just go to File Import, and I'm going to upload that CSV there and replace data.
See, I didn't even know you could do that. I just learned something
and
today.
then it's invaluable. I use it all the time because once you've built the framework for it and you know that the parameters of what you're bringing, it takes some testing. But once you know that you can trust the parameters of what you're bringing in, you can just overwrite. And so what that means is next month I'm going to have, by design, more donations to list, but it's going to also include the ones here. That's why this is red. I click here and I say replace starting at this cell, and it overwrites everything with new data, but also the old data. And so what we have is now this is all the donation data. We have, each fee.
Yeah, you bring this in from like the beginning of their.
Yeah. So I used some kind of dummy data here, just starting in June. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I have organizations that I do this for, and it's years of data that, I mean, it's a little, probably overkill. But it's worth it, again, in the case of, historical updates or modifications to the records. And, with the CSV file, it's not like we're talking gigs of data. It's pretty manageable. Mm-hmm. But so one of the things, so we're bringing in all the important information here, including, this note that allows us to, it doesn't really matter that, okay, this was monthly on the 1st, monthly on the 5th. I don't do much with that date, but what I'm able to use is this, and use a formula that says, it doesn't matter when, but just note that this is a recurring donation, because we're going to note that to the client later, so that this will stand out to them, that this is not just a one-time donation, but this is a standing recurring donation. So all this stuff, and we won't go into all the details, but I mean, this gets pushed out into a pivot table, which I didn't show you, but I mean, there was nothing here before, but now this gets automatically populated. We've got, this pivot table is building queries, which is building other pivot tables. So there's like all these nested formulas that kind of go deep back here, which come back to our summary sheet where we started, which was blank, but now we've got a lot of data that we can deal with. So the donor list, if this was at the end of the month of August, now they're looking at August of 2021, and here's all their donors who gave in that month, the date, their donation amount, the fee. And here's that note to say, and this was a recurring donation. So good old Jeff Bezos, he's donating $100 a month, and he's agreed to, Kindful offers, you can cover the fee. So he paid an extra $3. The actual fee was $328, but it more or less came to closer to $100 donation rather than us paying the fee on it. So this is just a helpful way month to month that donors can see, clients can see this, where it's really helpful. Let's say we're in the month of November and we're looking now, at all this information, and we want to go back. So now we can click this drop down and we can kind of keep flipping back through the months and see, we can watch these totals. How much are we paying in processing fees? If this number is off the charts, we can say, maybe we would like to have a few, some of our bigger donors give by check, because we're paying out the nose, paying 3% on, a $10,000 credit card donation or something like that. So just, again, I kind of offered tiered services to my clients. Some I kind of serve as a sort of an operations director, where I will help interpret the data and help make decisions and help guide in some of these directions. In a lot of cases, though, I leave that up to them, but I provide all the information for them to make the best decisions that they can. And that's, to me, this is a really critical part of it. What we didn't have is this is just a running total of all the donors to this organization and their grand total. So we've got the human fund with, there's their grand total. We've got all these different individual donors and just their running totals. This gives us kind of a good bird's eye view of who are our big donors and what are, where's most of our money coming from over the life of the organization. It's not a time-based report. It doesn't give us this year or this month or anything like that. It just kind of gives us big picture stuff. And then each of these, we can sort by different criteria. So, right now it's chronological, show me the month and show me just in order. But we could also say, I want to see it by donation amount. And I want to see my biggest donors of last month. Okay, so we got this Working 9 to 5 LLC donated $10,000, no fee. So that tells us it was probably a check. So we can see, in kind of a descending order, who are our big donors. And we can do the same thing here with, we've got this already now sorted by our donation amount. We could sort by, by last name if we just want to see, all of our donors in that order. So it gives the client a lot of ways to interact with their big picture donation information as well as the monthly stuff. But then in cases where we have recurring donors who are giving over time, it's one of the most common issues is, people will get their credit card hacked or stolen. Somebody uses it fraudulently, card gets canceled, and they've got a million updates to make. They have to, update their, Netflix and Amazon and, all of the services that they have on this card. A lot of times they forget their charitable donations and those get lagged. Then their donations get canceled and, it falls off. Well, we want to know that, and I will say Kindful does an amazing job with that. One of the things they even do is they'll monitor your expiration date, and the donor will get an email like 2 months ahead of the expiration date and say, hey, it looks like your card's about to expire. If and when it does, here's how to update it. Really nice. Makes my life a lot easier.
Super helpful.
But it still happens. Yeah. So what we want to do is then be able to see this information spread out over time. So that's our donor monthly details. So now we have this same as this summary here. It's our master list of donors, but it is broken out over time. So now we can see June, July, August, and all the way through the year, who's donating how much. And we can kind of now look for the trends that we saw in Kindful. We saw that chart, but we can sort of see it all at one glance. So in this case, Michael Bluth donating $26 a month, which is really, $25 plus the fee. So, okay, great. It looks like he's a standing donor. And then, it looks like something happened between October and November. It looks like his card dropped off. It's been a month and a half. He probably should have already donated by this point in December. We should probably reach out to him and say, hey, it looks like your card got canceled. Can we help you reconnect it? So again, this is the kind of stuff with some clients that might be my job to go find that, pursue that person, track them down, get it done. In some cases, it's just my job to provide that information so the client can have that so they can make contact and do what they need to do. So then in this case, we've got, again, the donor. Now we can see their history over time with their, their grand total over here. And we can do the same thing, sort it by all the same criteria, depending on what the client really wants and needs out of the information. So that's about it. That's a kind of a tour of the basics of the dashboard. And then what's nice is from there, I can actually use a lot of this data to then build custom journal entries that I can then push right out into QuickBooks. And it's, but again, all the information is here so that I can begin working with it just in one place.
Well, that is really neat. Thank you for showing us that.
Absolutely.
Clay. Yeah. So can you quantify how much time you think this has saved you over the years? Or like compared to the old way you used to do it, now with a single client?
I mean, it used to be, I'll say it this way. It used to be a full-time job for one organization. And now I do it for 8 or 9 different organizations and have space to accommodate quite a few more. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's, it saved me, hours and hours and hours a week spread out over years. So But again, it was a lot of upfront investment and I mean, it's, it's fortunate that I enjoy it. So it was not grueling to spend the time investing to figure this out and play with it and experiment with it. But it was a lot of upfront time.
I think I saw one of your formulas had, 8 or 9 nested parentheses in there. It was a pretty advanced function there.
Yeah.
How long do you think it took you to make this? I mean, obviously you've iterated on it over time.
Sure. But... Yeah. Oof, man. Well, I made kind of from scratch, I made a similar dashboard. It was very customized for a client. I want to say it took me about 40 or 50 hours, maybe over, a month or two.
But well worth it when you put that into, you compare that to now I can have not just one client, but I think absolutely. You said 8, 9, and with 8, room 9, for more, right?
And room for more, yeah.
Well, Clay, thank you again for showing us this. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers did as well. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today? For instance, where folks can get in touch with you?
Sure. You can find me at wellsteadsolutions.com. You can contact me there if you ever have any questions about nonprofit needs, and a quick overview, if I can, of some of the things I offer. Kind of everything turnkey, really, for nonprofits. Again, we work as well with small businesses, but our focus is really on nonprofits. All the way from, I've got several clients who came to me just with an idea. They had nothing more than just, here's what I have in mind, and I have some backing financially. So we walk them through that entire process, working with the IRS, working with the state to get everything formed, setting up bank accounts and donation processing and mailing addresses and all that stuff, just getting, turning it into a legal organization. Process development, setting up online donation systems, processing paper checks, which can just be a real hassle, being the face of donor relations. I was on the fundraising side of the nonprofit world for a long time, and my income relied solely upon it. So I know how critical it is to maintain good relationships with donors. So we and so has my staff. So we bring that into our relationships as we operate on behalf of our clients. If anybody has any questions, I usually offer a consultation, just to get started, and we can have a conversation for nothing, and then kind of see where things go from there.
Sounds good. Well, I'm sure a bunch of folks will be reaching out about your spreadsheet. I think you could offer a lot of insight on that regard.
Great.
So thank you, Clay. I am Blake Oliver, and you have been watching Gearing Up. We'll see you again next time.